Tengo que estar como 30 minutos de este diálogo, una hora. Entonces creo que me moré, pero al menos vi todo el directo, ¿no? No, pues tengo que verlo. Gente, lo siento si suena como unos mocos, pero es que estoy resfriado. Ya, espero que entiendan. Público. Público, ¿eh? ¿Qué? ¿Nuevo pico? No entendí. ¿Por qué me sale eso? Pero gente, ya vuelvo. Gente, soy nivel 243. Ahí está, el evento.
Just because of the fact that Mr. Savage has mentioned he doesn't like to be contested. I'm sure they got it uncon then, but
Aquí está,
it's
gente.
still never easy, whether you're uncon or contested, as far as establishing
Full
a
screen.
solid
Oh.
storm surge strategy.
Yep, Fnatic and
Gente, puedo
Moneymaker.
verlo en
Moneymaker
full
probably one
screen.
of our youngest players competing here today, showing that anything is truly possible as long as you have a chance, and they've given themselves just that. An opportunity on the biggest stage in the world when it comes to Fortnite. And you can already see the augment that he's choosing out. First Assault, Scope Salvo, two of the biggest ones that are needed when it comes to Storm Surge. It's going to allow them to keep their distance and keep hitting those shots.
Like seeing this from Kitos as well. We're talking about augments, but right now the prioritization is onto Snazy. And it's looking good. Trying to see if they can push forward in this box fight. Shots being taken by Podesai as well, just to even trade out so far. No real damage inflicted by either side just yet. But Yuma and Jaemon, they can definitely feel the pressure, and Podesai definitely aware of the fact that they've got more company coming.
Ooh, already taking advantage of their positioning high up on the side of that mountain. Trying to third party take some shots onto both Pink and Vico, who took down Ocus, adding more to their own Storm Surge. Weapon cache are going to be there, and you can see Yuma and Jaemon probably share that same weapons cache, so they're going to be forced to wait till Snazy and Podesai leave off of this spot to try to pick up the scraps, figure out whatever is left along.
A ver, gente, no crean que sea un fantasma,
Slappy Shores. My only question for them is how is their surge, because a lot of the teams are on the western side of the zone for now. They haven't begun to rotate over towards Slappy Shores. Not a lot of teams landing here right out of the gates, so for them, that's probably what's on their mind right now. We've looted up, we've got everything we need. Now we just need Storm Surge.
And hey, we're talking about Storm Surge so often. For Pink and Vico, this is going to be a massive contributing factor, getting that elimination onto Ocus, just taking full advantage of that 2v1 situation. And that's something that's not necessarily going to be easiest to come by at this stage of the game. And for Rapid and Mamambuga, again, we revisit, we talked about the fact they left Legacy so early, and they just haven't managed yet to find that pressure situation to actually secure eliminations for the refreshes that they would like. And they don't necessarily have time to just farm resources either, because there's other teams moving in at this point. There's other teams already establishing good positioning off of earlier rotation. So if you try to expend your time farming resources, you're just going to keep getting lit up.
Yeah, and honestly, looking at 7-man's inventory now, you can already see they won the vault over towards Relentless Retreat, but it's a little unorthodox. Typically, you would grab something to pack a punch, whether it's a Sharp Tooth, an Infiltrator, or even a Maven, but he's going to go without it for now, hoping that that Mythic Stinger does more than enough damage in a moment's notice to be able to survive. It all depends on how you control that recoil, honestly, because I remember that thing go brr.
It's so obvious that the intention, though, is that up-close and personal battle. The question is, will they actually manage to force themselves into that type of situation? And Rift Island can definitely be a location where we'd expect those battles to come, but even all throughout day one, we hardly saw any sort of contestation over this Rift Island. Sending all the way up, though, definitely having some issues as far as maintaining his shields are concerned. Those are going to be completely depleted. Granted, they have ample shield potions to make up for it, but it's going to be Hen, it's going to be Vask actually looking to contest. They don't want to let this Rift Island objective points go for free.
If only they saw the damage that was put on both of these players before they even touched down on the island. Surely they would try to take advantage of it. And you can see one man's trash, another man's treasure. Miro and Cooper sneaking up on the side, trying to take away the position. The French team of Snazy and Podesai also willing to contest this Rift Island. And that's one of the things I was thinking. It was very, very passive yesterday. Even solos were able to take it. But as the VOD review goes on, as time passes, players are going to realize there's nobody up there. But when everybody thinks the same, now we have 4 teams on top of Rift Island ready to battle it out. One of them, Hen and Vask, 141 above the damage threshold. They're going to be the ones to contain it, plus 15 points for them. And that's going to be huge because we already see teams with those points up the objectives.
Yeah.
Every little bit counts, but we've gotten a good idea of what's been happening directly in game so far. However, got a mid-game analyst to give us a little bit more.
Thank you so much, Taco. I just want to catch everyone up on our hometown heroes of Steno and Lush, who were able to get an elimination on Mr. Savage before he even hit the ground. Then we saw Steno be able to find a key, which he used to unlock a mythic shotgun. Quickly, they regrouped, built up a surge tower, and as you can see, they have vision on 2 duos of Jamin and Kanata, setting themselves up for an excellent mid and late game. So let's see how they do.
Only time will tell to see how it pays off. They definitely got themselves a good spot in the zone thanks to those plays.
And that's the thing, too, about those teams that are landing more towards the south side. It is so easy for other teams with slightly earlier drops to just pick you off with the elevation difference. It's one primary issue definitely known about that Naughty Nets area, but you can always expect to bounce back. I mean, we already saw the deal with the successful reboot ban onto Savage, so easy to say that anything can happen in these circumstances.
You can see it started at 181 above the damage threshold. Pamstu and Fatch slowly falling back down, climbing back up, trading shots back and forth. You have their eyes set towards Rift Island. They see a giant monument being built on top as Polaroids actually took down Snazy up above. And this is going to be a huge opportunity for them as they're just looking around. Nobody's directly pushing up onto them, even though they are split. They're just looking for these fights that are already underway and just trying to take advantage of it the best that they can. And just looking at the island right now, I didn't see Scented either.
Miro and Cooper are looking awfully anxious, though, in that position. You can just tell that they are waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike, and it's got to be only a matter of time. They can tell that there is so much chaos already unfolding on top of this Rift Island. Teams are just constantly under pressure, both outside and right here directly at the Rift Island. But for Vask and for Hen, again, you have to remember, they're the ones who actually secured the capture point here. So they've got some decent loot to go with it. And Miro and Cooper, if there was ever a time to try and kick down another team and, you know, get plenty of refills as far as your materials are concerned and your weapons, that is definitely the opportunity.
Yeah, elimination feed is lighting up. A lot of players being forced to interact with each other thanks to that storm surge. Seeing Vortex go down. Even Duke's trying to rise to the occasion here today after his performance yesterday, trying to qualify for the FNCS Global Championship Final tomorrow. Jamon goes down.
Ese tipo
behind, but he's only
es como que está reparando todos los daños, ¿no?
awareness of multiple teams in this lobby right now. It's not looking good. HP is going to be down low. Shields are going to be ripped off, and the shots continue. Finally, though, he does have a short moment to breathe, but that's only going to give him enough time to pop one Mimi. The Shalom and MK Pop are over on the other side. They probably know that he's a solo. They saw him crash land in with that rocket ram, and this is something that they're trying to take advantage of.
For Shalom and MK Papa, they've just been playing bouncer responsibility on this edge of zone, and granted it just moved in a little bit tighter, but for Yuma, now you can see him starting to get lit up by some of that Storm Surge. Accountability as far as your surge strategies are concerned, it can be very difficult to maintain it throughout because there's just so much action happening as some of the congestion builds along this edge of zone and teams needing to move even further in. Players like Yuma are bound to get caught out on those later rotations.
Yeah, you can see they're even willing to risk it. Shalom and MK Papa, they got the elimination, or at least they saw it towards the backside of zone, but they didn't have very many materials at all. So it was almost an all or nothing situation if they want to keep as best chance as possible for them to try to stay alive. I see a Vico. I don't see Pink. Got to imagine, yes, he is by himself as a solo, and he's suffering to surge right now. 13 below the threshold. Now he's in zone. Everything crumbling down. Only a few seconds to try to land the shot that matters, and he's not going to be given that opportunity. Down goes Pink. Down goes Vico.
But a massive pickup there for Yuma. Still utilize that rocket ram to try and close the gap even further and make sure that he's maintaining a decent distance on that backside of the zone. Kanata, meanwhile, next to Agers, trying to be vigilant with his awareness. And again, so many teams just trying to keep tabs on where everybody else is in the lobby. And players like Bing, there are a decent amount of pressure here, but they will manage to prevail. Nicely timed shots, nicely placed aim as well with that sharp tooth to ensure that they can acquire that elimination.
Yeah, and since he got eliminated altogether, gotta imagine Moneymaker went down earlier on in this same game. We saw Polarize, the one that took down Snazy, leaving Podesai by himself. At least he's above the damage threshold for now, but quickly falling below. Now he knows he's gonna have to try to find and catch somebody off guard, because otherwise he's gonna have no choice but to try to get in the box. Slowly but surely biding his time, trying to make sure that he makes the right play. And this is an opportunity for him to really rise to the occasion by himself, and with Storm Surge shutting off for now, that
Ok, gente, voy a ver las misiones. Ahí sí.
Edgy goes down outside
Ay,
the
no
zone,
mames.
so Duke and Edgy are also out of this game. Action is moving so fast, and we're not even into the placement points yet.
The zone pull, a little bit brutal for some of these teams as it just keeps getting closer and closer to that edge side. And again, for Agers and Kanata, as we get another opportunity to see from where we last left off with them, Kanata's got to be careful with this rocket ram on the landing. So many teams, and right on the side of this hill. It can be difficult. He's trying to work his way back up already. Fully understanding the fact that he doesn't want to have to play from the low ground, but he'll be forced to take shelter, utilize some of his Memnis. Unfortunately for him, only has those mini shield potions, won't actually get an opportunity to get full shields. And for Agers, this is even worse.
Yeah, he only has 23 HP, doesn't have time to sit back. Nice shot's gonna be fired. That is a huge siphon and refresh for Agers, because now he's boosted up in the mats. He has a little bit more HP to work with. The flopper, the medkit he can use in game, and if him Kanata can find a way to reunite, he has the minis and another knock onto QNG.
Se los carga a todos.
Doing what he did in their championship run. The
Se lo mató.
But he has to get to zone. This is a 5-tick. Time is running out.
No mames, se lo mató.
Upon miracle, landing in the palm of Agers' hands.
He's trying to do what he can to make it across, but this hill phase is just so problematic. Still, the med miss plus the med kit, he just doesn't have the mobility that he'd be hoping for. With so many teams having already pushed in, he might just barely make it in the nick of time. He's got to find.
¿Podrá ver las misiones aquí? Ah, no, no se puede.
Is more than enough.
I feel like I heard him on stage. Don't worry, Kanata, I'm coming. Don't worry. Medkit being used, minis being dished out, and they are back into the game. The resurgence from day one as we get a replay from Clix and Epicwell. One of the biggest teams everybody came to see. They get aggressed on due to Storm Surge, and they shine bright. Storm Surge is not a problem from them as they pick up 2 eliminations.
check out where Bryce and Chubbs are at, a little bit more isolated than some of these other teams that are trapped inside of all this congestion. Mr. Savage and Badil, though, from rags to riches at the beginning of this game, they have done a decent, if not a phenomenal job at putting themselves into a comeback situation.
Some of these teams who are asking, do you got what it takes to get your ticket onto the battle bus? What about the roller coaster this team's going through from down the mountain, across the rivers, over towards Naughty Nets? I think best case scenario, honestly, Taco, is it going south, continuing on towards that island. If it goes back on over to the west, this is going to be a nightmare for anybody that doesn't have mats, as Clix is using the last little bit that he does have left, but he finds
lo mató.
on the ping.
These perfectly timed rotations from Clix, managing to find these players who are looking to just find that final push inward. But again, this is the beauty of being able to play from that backside of the zone. Still, Clix, Epic trying to be careful, and we are getting a little glimpse here of a team that's momentarily on high. Whether or not Fishy and DMK are going to be able to hold this is a different question entirely, but for the time being, they look well situated to carry themselves into the top 10 at least.
Even though they have high ground now, they might have to wait for some of those teams below them to try to build that allow them to save some resources, save some mats as they make their way across the roster once more. Podesai, 131 below the damage threshold. Only a big pop to his name. So right now he's peeking through the cone. He's trying to just get as much information as possible. Where can I get this damage? But time is running out. He continues to fall well below that threshold as Savage picks up another elim. Badil goes down, but it's actually Epic Well who falls to Mr. Savage, trying to keep himself alive.
¿Qué? Subí de nivel.
It's the zone that's pulling away.
So unfortunate though, Savage gonna be unable to do anything in terms of helping out the deal. Simply has to watch and wait, continue their run. That flopper though, along with the crash pads, does a great job placing him into the zone. Mr. Savage moving through all the traffic, eating shots as well, but doesn't care in the slightest.
What the
He's
fuck?
just continuing to push forward. He's making his own path through.
It's not going to be the most healthy anybody in the lobby can be, but he's definitely going to give himself enough wiggle room to work with. His Clix now going to be a solo, probably one of the more prolific solo players in the game. He finds a knock on the head, but unable to finish it up. He gets taken out by Podesai.
Podesai as well. The fact that he's managed to stay this far into the game as a solo, you just know that he is going absolutely insane right now, trying to keep the run alive. Rocket Rams as well, destroying so many builds in the process. These players continue to rotate through, but that materials refresh is going so far, and it's actually Bryce and Chubbs now at the top of the lobby.
Oh, aquí están los cuadraditos estos. Estas personas que están, se está viendo ahora, bueno, esta no, la anterior, me caen bien, me caen bien. Hoy se murió.
Kanata, another mini, going to be popped. The patience. It's so hard to be patient through all this chaos as well. It's so easy to get distracted and think, okay, this is the perfect time to strike. A drop down to the low ground here for Kanata. Recognize the fact that he's got some players directly above him. Still has a couple of mini shield pushes he can utilize. Source on the
se lo cargó.
won't make it through.
Oh,
Cooper going
oh.
absolutely nuclear with the back-to-backs here. Cooper
No, se cargó el cuadradito.
actually got it.
¿Qué? Ellos ganaron.
Just stole away the game, but it's Bryce and Chubbs. I call them one of the most underrated teams falling under the radar this weekend. They played phenomenally to make it to this point, and they make a statement here in game one of the lower bracket. Frankie, how are they feeling?
How are you feeling? I mean, my friends up
Esperen,
in the dancing
gente.
booth would like to know, so I will ask you first, Bryce.
Esto hace ruido, este gesto.
Are you feeling a little bit
Esperen,
overwhelmed by
gente.
the fact that you just took a victory
Aquí.
royale
Yo
here on
estar
Nami
solitario.
Copenhagen?
Yeah, I'm nervous.
I can understand why you might be nervous. I do have a very scary face, so I'm going to come over to you, Chubbs. Talk me through the last moments of that game.
I don't know. We just took high and we won.
You took high. Okay, well, talk to me about the journey there. Did you feel like the zone was in your favor the whole time?
No, it wasn't at all.
Okay, well, how did you get around that situation then? How are you able to make the most of what maybe wasn't the most ideal situation?
Just we got surge and we had forecast, so we just went where the zone was.
There you go. Simple. Everyone hopefully listening here will find out how to win a victory royale on LAN thanks to these two. Just before I let you go, do you think you can overcome the nerves and pick up another victory royale today?
Yes, I think we can.
Brilliant. Well, you know what? Now you've said that, I think you can too. Copenhagen, please give it up for Bryce and Chubbs.
You know, I thought the games yesterday were crazy. But game number 1 of the lower bracket does not disappoint. Bryce and Chubbs taking forecast, using that to just help them get ahead of the storm. Even though they were in the toughest spot, it didn't matter. They were able to adapt. Yes, there's some nerves, but they overcame.
I love that interview, right? Getting asked, hey, you feel like the zones were in your favor? No, they weren't. I don't think they were in anybody's favor. I mean, a zone pulling over to Nani Nets and then pulling
son los
back to the
cuadritos.
mainland. That was a roller coaster of a ride.
¡Oh! Entonces sí ganaron los cuadraditos. ¡Buena!
They made it work.
Vea, tiene la ropa de Nike.
Even more north than Creaky Compound, so high up there. Of course, as they mentioned, they had the forecast, which helped them get the step ahead. And I
Mabe, sale fuego.
Right there. A little rocket ram play to knock out Towels and Fishy, who were up there for seemingly a long time in that end game. And from that point on, they were just riding out all of their materials, all of their heals. I think at one point there in that end game, I think I saw Bryce with a fishing rod. You know when you're carrying a fishing rod in the last zone? Things are looking rough, but it didn't work out too bad for him, did it?
Absolutely. Game 1 here on day 2, the victory royale. I'm sure for them, they're feeling a little overwhelmed, and now they just got to bring it back. More of what you do in game number 2. Now let's take a look at these standings. I want to see how this went. Now, of course, there's actually so much to talk about. Really quickly, let's highlight the duo in second place there, Cooper and Miro. We saw Chubbs and Bryce. It almost could have gone the way of Cooper, but riding as a solo rider, still a second place after the first game. That is a way. We hit the ground running.
Yeah, I'm really, really glad you brought these guys up because yesterday wasn't too great for Cooper and Miro, and I love the way that Cooper played that endgame. Such a clutch moment for him. And paired up with Miro, when these guys got together, I think a lot of people were asking questions. Wait, Miro is playing with Cooper? This up-and-coming player? Miro himself? And I think Cooper has just proved why he deserves to play with Miro, a player of his caliber. He's clutching in the big moments on the big stage, and it didn't quite work out in a victory royale for them, but what a start. That's the exact start we want to see from them to improve on yesterday.
I got to point out, though, it was close, right? Cooper finding the one knock, I was like, wait, it's doable. I think one more second, I think he would have found that other rhythm and clutched it up.
Mad close. Another duel we have to highlight, Aegis and Kanata being uncontested. Man, the way they navigated that last little bit of endgame there, I just love how kind of brave Kanata went. Like, I don't know if brave's the right word, maybe just like crazy, right? Like, let's just rocket ram on the side of this kind of cliff and we'll just see what we find. But once again, man, you're going to do what you have to do. And for him to have this start, this is the surge we need.
You're going to say, oh, the way that they traversed the end game. No. This was a Kanata solo clutch. But let's not forget, Azers had his own just right before this and actually made his way all the way to Kanata. So it was almost like they were kind of like passing the torch, right? It's like, oh, okay, I done solo clutch now. You go ahead and get us a couple more points. Third place. And I mean, I want to point something out. Look at the top 4. Look at the NA representation at the top of the leaderboard right now.
Yeah. I mean, they're doing good. It's good to see. I like them. You know, they're doing very good. I mean, we still have time. 4 more games to go, right? I have big expectations of people like Janice and Reason. Even, can I remind you, who took control of the island in that last game? Was it an EUGO? Yes, it was. I'll give you the answer straight away. And that was something that I was really surprised at as well, that island contestation. Yeah. So many more teams went up for it, it seemed like, but no one came all the way and try and claim it. It was Han and Vasquez who ended up saying, you know what, this is ours. It doesn't matter about anyone else. I think everyone else kind of like half went for it and then, you know what, I'm getting.
What's odd though is like, yes, for like one moment, right? They're right next door. And then suddenly it's like, you've got Stacey Portisai rifting on up. You've got people kind of hopping over old builds. But why did no one want to take this fight, right? If we're all going to take and burn our resources or do whatever we have to get up there, why didn't we just give that to them for free?
You know, Me and Minnie, we were watching sort of the west side of that zone, and there were so many teams that actually ended up being congested on that side of the zone, which means that all of these teams that were actually up on the Rift Island, they were happy with their position because they were getting free damage, right? Free shots off on so many teams below them. So why would you go ahead and take the fight? I mean, sure, you know, the capture point is worth those 15 points, but when you can get that much surge and actually traverse it into the
Mira, alguien ahí atrás está haciendo el get greedy, el greedy. No.
Depending on how the lobby works.
Pero que se hagan el Justin Orange este.
And get as much damage as we can. These guys haven't had very long at all to prepare for this, right? They haven't had a time at all, so I'm expecting some more drama in the next few games.
Absolutely, and why don't we hear from the players themselves? They have their own thoughts on mid-match objectives. Take a look.
The mid-match objectives are really important towards the game.
That could be the difference between you winning and you getting top 5.
Big risk sometimes, but if you're good at fighting, it's going to make the game so much more easier.
For the first objective of the game, the forecast tower, there's a lot of reward. I mean, you get 2 slurps, a gold AR, and you can see the future zones.
Você pega uma torre que ela prevê a safe, né? Então, isso é uma vantagem tipo ridícula.
連覇とは、取ったら1位取れるぐらい重要です。
If we see that it's not a big risk, then we go for it.
It makes the game so much more easier if you get it.
But there's definitely a risk, and you might lose all your mats, your heals, and you might even get eliminated.
The Rift Island made the game more interesting for the teams that are going into endgame and know they don't have a lot of loot.
It makes the game more aggressive.
The risk is that many people go for it because of the points.
It can be up to like 8 to 10 people on one island all fighting in one really close area, and it gets really hectic.
The fights at the mid-match objectives are going to be intense because of the high reward, but it can be the downfall of some players if they get eliminated.
It gives you max mats, it gives you everything that you need to win the game. The sacrifice is that everyone can see you if you're up there.
It's a finals lobby and people are probably going to be scared to go for it.
Towards the later games, like when people really need that jump, if they're trying to place as high as possible, the reward will be a lot higher, but the risk is also be a lot higher, so we'll see how it turns out.
命をかけて電波と、はい。もう
Those 15 points can just make or break your entire game. And that could be the difference between 10,000, 100,000, even 500,000.
Se você ganhar o campeonato, você muda a tua vida, literalmente.
So it's definitely something to prioritize and something that we're looking to play for as well.
The 2 takeaways. Forecast towers, willing to put their lives on the line for it, and if you get the forecast towers, you're probably going to end up like Bryson Chubbs there in game number 1, finding their first Victory Royale of the day.
Yeah, and they got 3 points for it, even though it was Hen and Vasquez that were able to get the 15 for Rift Island. That's just showing overall how important it is to plan around these things, but also have a plan B just in case things go wrong. But the right thing is game number 2, and it's about to start now.
Game 1 did not disappoint in the slightest. Game 2, I expect to deliver all the same, if not more, as these teams, some of them getting a little bit of a taste of what that 50-50 contest is like at the start, but we definitely saw plenty of teams taking things relatively slow, really just trying to prioritize their resources off rip. But for FKS, Adapter, they want all of Kenjutsu to themselves. Suns nearly eland on the drop, and yet Suns and None just barely gonna manage to get out of this one.
Yeah, and it almost looks like they want to chase him down. They're over one. Was that bush there before? Is that something new? Shots got fired through. Just a sliver of HP left. He finally gets knocked down. Forget Luton when we could pick up these early game eliminations. That kind of leaves Anon all by himself, but luckily he was able to get across to the other side of Kenjutsu's crossing, but the timer is on. He only has a certain amount of time before he can get that reboot card back. Luckily, those Suns hasn't been fully eliminated just yet, so the timer actually hasn't started just yet.
But surely Anon knows Suns merely being toyed with at this point by Adapter and FKS. FKS will finish off that elimination. Wants to collect the Siphon and the 4 elimination points to go with it, but meanwhile, Hall of Whispers could definitely see some action here. Depends on how Yuma and Jaemon actually want to play it out. Right now, Yuma, Jaemon doing their best to just try and get some materials going, because you can't really have a box fight if you don't have any boxes to build.
Yeah, and it looks like Moneymaker and Fnatic not wanting to push up just yet. They're still getting things going, waiting for it to flow. Clix and Epic well over on the other hand. Mega City, they had a phenomenal first game. They sit inside of the top 25 after one game. If they can keep this pace going, we will see them on the Grand Finals Championship Sunday. Only time will tell though, because they're actually split up right now. They are so far split.
Gente, voy a ver si... Voy a parar el directo para ver si estuve 30 minutos, o quedarme un rato poco. Si me voy a quedar un rato más, y ahí puedo ver si pasaron 30 minutos porque es para conseguir unas recompensas gratis. Soy Homero chino, soy Homero, pero chino. Soy Homero chino, soy Homero chino, soy Homero bueno.
Shattered Slabs, you know, King and Phaser are over on towards their left, double contestation on their south towards Relentless Retreat. And they're kind of using all the time that they have to their advantage, so that way they can have these safe rotations. That way they have an opportunity to play out, and they're going to be one of the first teams rotating out of that side. And Taco, I think we've seen this strategy before.
What?
FHD and Hero might be doing something that only one region has done so far on the weekend.
Una misión.
Are somewhat of an inspiration, one might say, as far as this strategy is concerned. And we can see Bing trying to crawl away here.
Que gente, ya tengo que apagar para ver si ya duró todo